Welcome to the Intuitive Therapist Podcast with Janice R. Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janice will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as the angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janice R. Cohen.
Hey y'all, this is Janice Cohen, the Intuitive Therapist, here on the Intuitive Therapist Podcast. Today we are diving into a topic that resonates deeply as we approach the end of the year. Unfinished business, resolving emotional blocks before the new year. And if you're feeling the weight of unresolved emotions, maybe you don't identify them as that, but you know that you're not carrying forward clean energy. There's some residual emotional stuff that that's traveling with you, whether it's lingering regrets, unspoken words, or unmet goals. You are not alone. We've all got them, unless you worked on them as they've shown up, and then you have less of them than other people do. Even still, listening today is definitely going to help you release the judgments that you have attached to the emotions that you've been holding on to. And you may not even know that you do that, right? So we feel certain things, maybe anger, regret, frustration, and it's really underneath, we tend to resent ourselves for feeling that way because someone else did something. So I'm going to explain all of what that means to you. So in this episode, as I have been doing, I'm going to share 3 powerful questions. They're going to really get you to think about how to let go of things. And then I'm going to give you some strategies that are really going to help you clear that clutter so that you could step into the new year feeling lighter, freer, and fully aligned. And that's really what we're going for, always, to get into alignment with our truth. So let's dive in. Now, I want to first talk about what emotional blocks are. And like I said, some of you may not even know that you have them. You just know that you don't feel great, or maybe you have gotten used to not feeling happy. And these can be anything that keeps you stuck emotionally, psychologically, even physically, right? Financially, spiritually. It's all across those 5 spheres. Resentment towards someone, guilt over a decision, or even fear of moving forward. Unfinished emotional business, what I tend to call an incomplete emotional experience. This is what most people call healing. So I don't use the word healing. If you heard me say that over and over again, it's not a word that resonates with me because we are whole as souls. So it's the human part of us that needs shifting and upgrading. So we have to complete incomplete emotional experiences to do that, right? So emotional business, the unfinished part, doesn't just sit quietly in the background. Maybe sometimes it does, but most of the times it doesn't. It affects your mood, your relationships, and your overall well-being. I want you to think about something like either a low-grade, long-standing depression, where you've just not ever really been able to be happy, or flat-out fury, anger, resentment. You've just got a chip on your shoulder all the time. Those are 2 extremes. And if you don't think you've buried them, well, I want you to think again, because somewhere, somehow, and in some way, they're going to leak out. So if you're triggered in any way, you've got an emotional block that's incomplete, right? You haven't completed the incomplete emotional experience, and it will hold you back. And if you're anything like me, you want to clear the path so that you can get to your pinnacle wherever it is. You want to be able to get on the right path and stay there and live in alignment so that you can achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve and ultimately feel what you want to feel. So I want you to think about it as, like you're carrying a heavy backpack. If you don't unpack it, the weight of that, it's going to follow you. You're going to carry it forward. But the good news is today you can start the unpacking process. And we always want to unpack what's weighing heavily on you before you begin something new, because if you don't, it's going to cloud all of your future steps and all of your judgments and all of your decisions and all of your perceptions. That's how powerful these blocks are. Now, I've held this belief for a very long time that just because January 1st arrives, that doesn't mean that that's the only time change can happen. Humans tend to make resolutions at the beginning of the calendar year, right? It's somehow become the marker. But if you know anything about spirituality, it's not a past, present, future. It's everything all at once existing all at the same time. So the dates are human things that we've decided to make as markers. But if you want to change on September 10th, suddenly you have an epiphany and you let some long-standing pain go, or you take a leap of faith in some area, and always you can get to choose when you stop holding on to emotions, right? You could do that today. You could do it tomorrow, right? You could choose any moment that you want to let go of things that don't serve you and make shifts and changes. And, if I'm speaking truth, which I really do my best to do, emotions have one purpose. I want to tell you this, and that is to signal to you how in alignment or out of alignment you are with your authentic, and this is the best part, your liberated truth. Liberation is a whole nother topic, because when you are living in the truth of who you are, when you speak your truth, when you live your truth, when you don't worry about what other people think and you just do you in your own unique way, there's a liberation about that. And most of us, as we've gotten into our 40s and 50s and beyond, we feel this liberation because we've chosen to let go of things. Our values shift, they change. It's like the Rolodex of values goes backwards and different ones come up for us to embody. I know for me, safety used to be my number one value, right? And significance. I needed to feel important and I needed to be able to predict what would happen. Now, growth is my number one priority, my number one value, contribution, and also to have variety in my life, to do different things, to take leaps of faith, to test my ability to experience a deeper and far-reaching sense of freedom. So if you don't feel authentic, free and light and peaceful, something is out of alignment. And you have to complete the incomplete emotional experience of that thing so that you can get back into alignment. Any emotions that you hold on to that don't allow you to feel good, happy, and free, they are emotions that are blocking you. And to take this a step further, your emotions are signaling you to look at the limiting beliefs that you have about yourself. Limiting beliefs are always about you. They're always about what you are capable of. Okay? That's why they're called limiting beliefs. So if you're pissed off that somebody disrespected you, well, if you put a mirror up to yourself and you notice the ways that you disrespect yourself, then you're starting to do the work. Or you notice the ways that your insecurities show up when that sense of entitlement runs through your body when you encounter somebody who acts entitled and it pisses you off. That's work that you need to do, right? Anytime that you are triggered is a moment that you can go within and check in with yourself by asking yourself, okay, man, this person really pissed me off. Oh, they're so arrogant, or they're so entitled, or they're so this, they're so that. I feel X about this. How am I going to deal with it within myself, right? And the truth is, and I say this over and over and over again, anybody in your life that shows up is teaching you. I said this in my last episode. If you're not triggered by something, it means that you have completed the incomplete experience of it. If you are still triggered by somebody's behavior, they are showing up as a teacher for you. Every single person in your life is a teacher. And so when they show up and they trigger you in any way, if they cause you to feel guilty, right? The saying of they caused me, they made me feel this way. Nobody makes you feel anything. You choose it, right? But if that feeling is triggered in you by somebody, then that is a phenomenal moment to learn from them, to actually thank them for triggering that in you, because that's your work to do. It's like they're giving you the roadmap. Anytime you're triggered, it's a roadmap. It's a rest stop. And that's where you do the work. So if you always resort to this strategy of going within and kind of saying, oh my gosh, well, this person showed up in this way and I feel this, in what ways am I doing this in me? Okay? They're showing up as a mirror to show you what you have unresolved in you. So if you practice this work and do this work, you're never going to give your power away to anybody else for acting a certain way or making you feel a certain way, because that's not the truth. Nobody makes you feel any way at all. You get to choose that. People are messengers, as I mentioned, and they show up in our lives to teach us constantly about who we are and how honest we're living our lives. That's the authenticity and that's the liberation I was talking about. How honest are you living your life? If you're a people pleaser, you're not living an honest life. If you push your emotions down to make other people comfortable, you're not living your best life, an honest life. No one is more deserving of anything. Everybody's on the same plane in terms of that. Yet those that struggle and they bark back at others, right, who take offense at other people's behaviors and they feel hurt and bothered and angry or threatened in any way emotionally, well, y'all have got some real work to do on yourself. And every time I think back on, about how often I felt offended in the past or angered or worried or disrespected, I wasn't able to connect the dots. Nobody taught me this stuff that I'm teaching you until I learned it on my own. And this is what I learned, that every single person that has entered my life is here to teach me about myself. That's it. Our job here is to grow, period. End of story, and of course, contribute to other people's growth as well. We become the teachers for other people. And to help me shore up my own relationship with myself. That's the work. That's the work. To shore up your own relationship with yourself. And it's true, I still have moments where I backpedal and I fall back into believing, sometimes the arrogance of my ego. I got ego work to do. We all do. We all need to continue to check ourselves for what our ego is telling us. But for the most part, I have defaulted to receiving people's behavior as a reflection of where I am with me. And if you live your life that way, that people simply are showing up, giving you a message with their own behavior, and you get curious, and you go, oh my gosh, I wonder what I need to do work around, then you're really, really good. The less I feel triggered, the more in tune I am with myself, and the more settled within myself I feel. That's the liberation. It's beautiful. Now, let's get into some of these questions, because y'all know I love some good questions. Here's the first one. What is one unresolved feeling or situation that has been weighing on you this year? Okay, I want you to write that question down, because sometimes just naming the unresolved feeling is enough to shift the power over you from it. And given the quick strategy that I just shared with you, what did the unresolved feeling trigger within you? You're like, I can't let that go. I need to hold on to that because it makes me feel strong and protected, right? Did whatever happened threaten your sense of self-worth? Did you notice that you might have felt inadequate in that situation? Did you become defensive and try to explain or justify yourself to somebody? Did you feel powerless? It's time to get to know your feeling triggers because they are the keys to your personal freedom, the liberation I'm talking about. And when you stand in your own energy and you let people act the way they act without becoming affected by it in any way, you've won. You've done the work. You have made the championship point. But if you're not able to do that with certain people or let go of long-standing resentment, anger, grief, and the like, right? You are being held hostage by your emotions, and no one can ever move forward when they're chained to their past and they've got cement on their feet. Now that you've identified something, right, a situation, an emotion, I want to dive into these three strategies to help you. Okay? So, there were a few questions in there. You might want to go back and write them down, but let's move into the strategies. Okay, now, this is called the forgiveness frame. Forgiveness is a tough one for a lot of people, and I get it. Forgiveness, it's often misunderstood, so I'm going to explain it very clearly to you. Forgiveness is not about condoning bad behavior or letting somebody off the hook. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, okay? It is about you letting yourself off the hook to carry the negative emotions around like a badge or in your backpack. Sure, some people can do despicable things. I get it. But you hear about people all of the time who've been through hell and they choose to forgive themselves in order to reclaim their lives. Now, not forgiving will only hold you hostage, right? If you don't forgive. And, I have never known anybody to be truly happy and at peace when they're at war with their emotions, when forgiveness is thriving, unforgiveness is thriving. You just can't. So I'm going to give you a several-step strategy. It's like 5 steps. This is the forgiveness frame. Here's how you can practice it. The first is I want you to close your eyes, and you may not even need to close your eyes. Something may come up for you very quickly. And if that's the case, write it down. I want you to picture the person or situation that you cannot forgive, that you still harbor anger, resentment, contempt, whatever it is, rage. And I want you to only pay attention to the feeling that the situation brought up for you. I want you to write that down. Okay? Identify the root feeling. If you think the word anger isn't strong enough, go to a deeper, heavier weighted word like fury or rage. And then ask yourself, how have I treated myself in this way that I would react so deeply? Now, of course, when bad things happen to us, especially when we are violated, this is one of the hardest parts, especially at a young age. This framework, it makes it very difficult to apply, but you can. Sometimes we can't do it in this lifetime. We can't apply this framework in this lifetime because you either don't have the skills or you just haven't been able to do it. But there are those who have, and they come to an understanding that those people that violated them, that it had nothing to do with them as little kids, that they were victims, right? And that it was the other person who had to pay the karmic price, either in this lifetime or in another lifetime. But as you get older, you're carrying the emotional baggage of your identity from that experience. That's the block. You define who you are because of something that happened to you in your past that you didn't have the brain power, the brain capacity, the intellect to process it in the best way. And if you can separate the identity that you've given yourself from the actual truth of the violation, that you didn't cause it, then you can free yourself from the emotions, the emotional chains that are so deeply rooted, and get your personal power back. If you need to listen to that again, rewind it, listen to it again. Step number 4, say this simple mantra once you've done the work, 1 to 3, okay? And the mantra is, I release you and I reclaim me and my energy. I release you, and you can add your energy. And what I like to do is I like to have people picture this person in a ball of light. It can be any color light you want. I like to use golden white light or white light. Picture them in this ball of light, and you pull back all of your energy. Maybe you need to sit for a while you're doing this. You can close your eyes. If you're visual, you can open your eyes and see the ball of light with the person in it. And you call back all of your energy. You can see the energy coming back into your body clean. And you give them back all their energy. And then you see them go all the way into the cosmos and disappear. That's one example of reclaiming your energy, right? So the simple mantra, I release you and reclaim my energy. And this will only work if you mean it. You will be able to clearly let go if you do. If there's any part of you that still struggles, you've got to examine the meaning of who you are if you actually release it. There's that piece too, right? If you flip it, who am I if I let go of this identity that I've carried around my whole life, of the victim, where this story has been so prominent in my life, defining who I am? Do I really even know who I am without this story? It's a big one, right? And once you've gotten to that, once you realize that until you get to the only place that you must get to, which is my past doesn't define me, and I can become something even greater because I've let go of this identity, then you'll mean what you say. And then I want you, step 5, to repeat this until you felt a subtle shift, that mantra. I take back all of my energy, cleaned it in love and light, and I give you back all of yours. You no longer control me. Remember, forgiveness, it's not a one-time act. Sometimes we have to do this over and over and over and over again. It's a process, but every time you practice it, you free up a little bit more of your emotional space to consider different ways to see yourself. Now, here's a second powerful question. What would forgiveness, whether of yourself or somebody else, feel like in your body right now? This is a big, big, big one. Now, I want you to notice the sensations that come up in your body, like increased tension or maybe a lightness. For most of us, it feels like a weight has been lifted, right? If you were to really have that forgiveness and think about the times that you actually have had it, it's like, I can breathe better. You feel lighter, you feel looser, right? You feel more relaxed. Your body is your greatest ally, and it tells you everything you need to know without saying a word, right? It just speaks to you physically. It just shows you how you truly feel. Your body will never lie. Every time that I've been able to forgive somebody for bad behavior was the moment that I shifted into student mode of myself. What can I learn about myself from this? I turned every fuck you into a thank you. Once I learned about this concept that everybody in my life is teaching me something, I stopped resenting them for being the messenger. And I started accepting that there was something about the degree of harshness of their behavior towards me that represented something about me that I needed to complete. So if it's true, and it is, that people show up as messengers and teachers all the time, 100% of the time, then I must need to learn something about this, something from this. So I want you to get curious and quiet And I want you to see what comes up for you. If I let this go, how would my body feel? If I don't let this go, how would my body feel? Now, the second strategy, it's a closure letter. Some of you might consider this, how do I say this? Light, meaningless. But those of you that have done it, when you're at the point you've done the work that I've just shared with you before, this is going to have meaning. It's going to weigh more. So sometimes closure comes from within, and you can do it on your own once you've perfected the process of understanding how the universe works for you. And one of the most effective ways to process unresolved feelings is to write a letter. Because if let's say the person has passed and you can't speak to that person, or they're gone and you don't know where they are in the living world, right? The only way you can get resolved is through your own actions. So this is an example of how to do that. So here's how. So you sit down and you write to the person, or you write to the event that happened, or you even write to yourself, and you're brutally honest. And this is for your eyes only. Nobody will, this is between you and source. Nobody's ever going to need to see this. Express everything. Whatever language you want to use, express it all. Write until you're done. It doesn't matter if it's 1 page or 100 pages. Write until you're done. You'll know when you're done. Express what hurt you, what you learned. This is the key, right? If you can't complete this, then you can't really fulfill this process. So once you identify what you learned about yourself and how you must re-relate to yourself, then you're ready to let it go. It's not enough to just say, I hate you for what you did to me. That's important. But there's this other piece. And here's you learn how, and I've talked about this before, it's called blaming effectively. You learn how to blame it effectively. And blaming effectively is all about using a situation to your benefit. Because this happened, I became this way in a positive way. Because my parents treated me this way, or we didn't have money, or I was starving all the time, or they didn't guide me. When I had my child, I made sure they had a roof over their head, their clothes. I made sure they had food. I made sure we felt safe. And I made sure they knew who they were. I became a better parent because of what I didn't have. That's blaming effectively. And you're going to end the letter with gratitude. Thank you. Thank you, bad experience. Thank you, bad person, for teaching me something in such a severe way, because that was the only way that I could learn it. I missed all the other times. So it has to show up in a very severe way. So thank you. I now feel like I've learned something valuable. Once you've done this, you can keep it. You could hide it away somewhere in a closet. You could shred it, or you could burn it as a symbolic release. Now, the third powerful question is, if you could speak without fear of judgment, what would you say to resolve this unfinished, incomplete emotional experience? Now, this is the time to let it all out. Some of the most cathartic conversations can happen when you're not even talking to the person who you feel has hurt you. Okay, so here's a strategy. I'm telling you this works. I've done it. It's phenomenal. Grab an empty chair, put it in front of you, and go for it. Talk to it. See the person there. Say everything you want to say. Get angry, get raw, get real. Get it out. And at the end, announce what you've learned about yourself from it. Never will I allow this to happen again. Never will I settle. Never will I trust just willy-nilly. I will always trust my gut feeling. I will never take that for granted. And then you take your energy back immediately. I call back all of my energy in love and light. You don't have control over me anymore. I give you back all of your energy. Go. Goodbye. Now, notice how you feel when you do that. It's powerful. So the third strategy, and this is our final strategy, is something that I call, you've heard the word ritual, and it is. Rituals create a sense of closure that words or thoughts sometimes, they just can't, because our physical body needs to do something. Now, here's a simple release ritual you can do. Maybe this works for you, maybe it doesn't, but I always like to give options. So the first thing is to write down what you want to let go of on a small piece of paper. And again, if you don't really mean this and you put all your energy behind it, makes it really kind of like more of a superficial practice. So notice on a scale of 0 to 10, where 10 is, I'm all in with this. I'm ready to let this go. Every part of me is like, yep, let's do this. Or if it's less than 10, then you got some work to do to get to 10. So safely burn the paper, watching the smoke carried away. And while you're watching the smoke carried away, notice how you still feel. If you feel cleared of it, fantastic. If not, then you got to do some more of the inner work around it, right? About what's preventing you from letting it go and why you're still holding on to it. And as you do this, I want you to say, I release what no longer serves me, and I welcome the new. I make space for the new. This physical act can be incredibly powerful in signaling to your subconscious mind that it's time to let go. Now, I want to tie this all together. There's a lot. This one was a lot. And I want you to take a deep breath with me. And I want you to imagine what your life could feel like without the weight of unresolved emotions. I mean, imagine how your life could be. Imagine stepping into the new year clear, light, aligned, open to all the possibilities for the first time in your life, right? Remember, healing, which is, the word people use, I call it completing the incomplete emotional experience. It doesn't happen overnight, but every step you take is progress. Whether you practice forgiveness, write a letter, or create a ritual, you are reclaiming your power and clearing space for what truly matters, which is your liberation and your authenticity. If you have found this episode helpful, please share it with somebody you feel like could find use in it, right? Don't forget, subscribe, and so that you never miss an episode. And I want you to pledge to yourself this coming year that 2025 is going to be the year that you reclaim your personal power, and that you're always going to do the work in the moment and not let it pile up on you. Okay? If you feel like this has made a difference, rate and review the podcast. And until next time, I wish you a blessed day, a wonderful week, and as always, live authentically and intuitively.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend. And be sure to give us some stars and a favorable review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.